Amelia Montgomery, welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you and be with you at the National Tuskegee Airmen Convention. And you're a special person here for special reasons that you are basically were a donor's wife and you're a long-term member of this organization and someone who's contributed for such a long time to Tuskegee Airmen and preserving the history. Why have you done that? What's been your motivation in all these years?
Well, the motivation for me is, as you said, to preserve our legacy, our history, because of what we go through as a race of people and what we're going through now. I'm determined that we're not going to allow others to cast us aside because we're America. We are Americans. And my intention is to make sure that, especially the airmen, they're never forgotten, to keep their legacy alive, and to know that they had played a major part in World War II. Had it not been for them, we would have lost that war. We would be speaking German now. Okay? So this is this is what I live to do as long as I live, to make sure that they are never forgotten.
Now, one of those very special Tuskegee Airmen was your husband, Dabney Montgomery.
Dabney Montgomery.
And give us a quick idea of who Dabney was and what was so special about him?
Well, he was a civil rights activist to his heart, and he served with Dr. King through the war. He was one of Dr. King's bodyguards through the march from Selma to Montgomery. He met Dr. King back in the 1950s when he was attending the Boston Conservatory of Music. He studied ballet, believe it or not. He met
Dabney
them.
studied ballet?
Say that? What'd you say?
Dabney studied ballet?
Yes, he studied ballet. He met well, he wasn't Dr. King, he was just Reverend King. He was going to Boston University studying for his doctorate. And Dabney, and it turned out that Coretta Scott, she was going to the Boston Conservatory of Music also. So they were introduced by a woman who was a member of a church Dabney attended in Boston. She said that she wanted him to meet her other godson, but he didn't know who he was meeting. He was just going to meet this other person that she became very attached to. And it turned out that it was Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott. They were engaged at that time. They had dinner one Sunday afternoon and became good friends. They became acquainted, and he said that he was invited to Reverend King and Coretta Scott's wedding, and if he had known that he was going to become famous, he would have saved that invitation. He didn't save the invitation. But through his connections through civil rights, because Dabney did a lot of civil rights activities, that when that came up about the Selma to Montgomery March, he said he had to go down and be a part of that. And he did, and it turned out that he signed up to be one of Dr. King's bodyguards. And he had an awesome job because he said that there were threats, against the marches, that people were threatening to set up bombs in the fields where they were going to spend the night, because there were no hotels, of course. So they had to sleep in open fields between Selma and Montgomery. He said he was sent out one day. He was asked, along with two other gentlemen. One of the gentlemen that he was with was Veronica Lake. If I don't know if you remember that actress name.
Oh.
Veronica Lake's husband. He and Veronica Lake's husband and another gentleman were sent out ahead to inspect the field where they were going to stay that night, to make sure there were no bombs. And he said there were no bombs. and they stayed that night. And then the next day they arrived in Montgomery. There were, he said, they were the people that were out there to spit on them, threaten them, try to attack them, but they were sort of protected by the National Guards. And he said there was a place, one point in the march, where he said a helicopter came down and like stopped in front of him. And the pilot got out and introduced himself and said that they were there to protect the marchers. Back in the early 2000s, we went up to Newburgh, to the chapter in Newburgh, to go to their event, their annual event. And this gentleman came up to Dabney and said, "Dabney, do you remember me?" And he said, "No." He said, "I was the pilot, the helicopter pilot that stopped, landed in front of you." It turned out he was a senator, a state senator, New York State senator. And he said, he reminded Dabney of all of what went on, the activity, and they became friends. But Dabney was very dedicated to the cause of civil rights. I didn't know he was a Tuskegee Airman. I was married to him. We married in 1971, and I didn't know until that movie with Lawrence Fishburne came out about the Tuskegee Airmen, and that's when he told me he was a Tuskegee Airman. I didn't know it because they didn't talk about it. I guess, I don't know what it was about them not doing it, but I understand they were told not to talk about being a Tuskegee Airman because it was supposed to be top secret. Well, that was nonsense. The government, this United States government, did not want America to know about these quality people, okay, who were fighting for this country. But anyway, so I didn't know. But then when I did find out, well, then I started to help him get very involved with this, with the organization. And I'm very proud that he did, and we were very, very happy to be a part of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated.
And both you and Dabney have both been integral members of the Claude B. Govan chapter.
Yes, well, there was a chapter, I don't know the name of the chapter before Claude B. Govan, but soon after, we did become members of Claude B. Govan. It turns out also that Claude B. Govan was a relative of my sister's husband. And they didn't seem to know about him until they went to a family reunion and heard his name mentioned. And I said, because of that name being an odd, Govan, it's not common. When they said they were going to a family reunion and it was the Govan family, I said, ask them if they are related to Claude Govan, and it turned out that they are related to Claude B. Govan. So the world is getting smaller and smaller. Who knew? You know,
Dabney did go overseas.
He went over, he served in Italy, in Ramatelli, from 1944 to 1945. And he ran the warehouse, the food and clothing warehouse. He was in charge. He had to receive special training for that before going over. But he did say that when he was assigned to go over, he didn't know who. He said they didn't tell him the group he was going with. He was just going. And it turned out it was the Tuskegee Airmen.
So everybody talks about the pilots that flew the planes, but Dabney was part of all those thousands of other people
That's right.
that made it possible for them to get
because
off the ground.
There was only 994 pilots, and the rest, the 16,000 altogether, that was ground crew.
Including women.
Personnel, including women. And of course, I understand that the women, when they talked about Tuskegee Airmen, the women wanted to be called Tuskegee Air Women. And you know, men, I don't have to tell you about you guys. They said, no, you're just be airmen. So they wouldn't let them change their changed it to Tuskegee Airwomen. So that's why people think that it was only men, but no, it was men and women who served.
Well, I want to thank you for giving a little time so that we can record some of this history. There's so much more. We could probably spend 2 or 3 days. Maybe at some point we will. But thank you for your service, for your husband's service, and for all you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking.